If you're thinking about buying a home this year and you're trying to make sense of this market, this video will help you understand what actually has changed and what hasn't. I'm Adelia Sosanya. I'm a licensed real estate professional in the state of Oklahoma. I have been licensed for the past 10 years and I have helped hundreds of people buy, sell, and invest in our local market. And as I always like to say, real estate is local. So a lot of the information that you will receive on this channel is relevant to Oklahoma. However, there will be some nuggets that you can extract that applies to any market. So this 4-part series, we're going to break down some of the trends that you're seeing about home buying and home ownership in 2026. We'll cover topics from buying a home with your 401k, housing in this economy, and what does it look like to use your equity to purchase your home or do a cash out refinance. So I wanted to make sure this information just wasn't random. I get a lot of direct messages from my past clients and people that know me asking about these different topics. And so this information is going to be relevant to you. So be sure to tune in to this 4-part mini-series. I'm sure you'll find value out of what you get here today. Okay, so let's get right into it. So I think it's important when we start talking about the housing market, specifically with first-time buyers and people that are entering this market, I think it's important to address some background information and really get into what does it mean today in 2026, and then what did it look like 50 years ago, right? I'm not quite 50, but I'm in that generation, getting close to that. I'm not going to say what that is, but I do want us to go backwards a little bit when we look at 1976, right? What was the median price of a home in 1976? Well, according to the data, the median home price was priced between $39,000 to $42,000, right? Newer homes, of course, were a lot smaller than what they are today. They averaged between 1,200 to 1,400 square feet. Many of those only had 1 to maybe 1.5 bathrooms. There was no open concept. There was limited central heat and air. So a lot of people, had ceiling fans, or they just didn't have a lot of the amenities that we've become very accustomed to today. So today, if we look at our average home size, it's somewhere between around 1,500 to 1,700 square feet. Don't quote me, I haven't looked that up actually. I'm just going off of my time working with clients, but it's somewhere in that range, right? Our median national home price is around $410,000. Again, compared to 50 years ago, we're talking $39,000 to $42,000, right? We have more amenities. Our homes are a lot larger. So let's break that down a little further, because when we talk about real estate, specifically wherever state you're living in, it's always going to be local to your information. So there's the national data, right? And then there's the local data. So make sure you understand, how does this apply to your local market when we're looking at these numbers and how people lived and moved around in their real estate. But going back to Oklahoma, so our GDP, which stands for gross domestic product, I will break down and explain what all that means in another video. But today, I just want to look at what our stats here are in Oklahoma City metro area. So our economy is sitting around $219 billion. We have a growth of 2.7%, and that's from 2024. Our unemployment rate is we're sitting around 3.1%. And we are ranked 11th out of 50, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. We're ranked 11 out of 50 states to have a very strong economy. And that says a lot for our state. And a lot of people know us most recently for our NBA basketball, the Thunder winning the NBA championship. Shout out to Thunder, OKC Thunder. I am a Thunder fan, so yes, I'm very proud to be in a city where, having grown up here all my life, I have seen it transform and become this place where we used to say, oh, we're going to leave. we want to go to some of these other coastal places. But now a lot of our Oklahomans, we have those that are my generation. I'm a generation. I'm not going to tell you what generation I am, but I am going to say that we did not always love and weren't proud of the amenities and the things that our state has offered. And it has since grown in a wonderful way. And so I think that speaks a lot to the GDP that we're seeing here, the unemployment. Some of our biggest industries are going to be our energy industry. We also have a lot of oil and gas drilling that happens here. We have aerospace. We have the aerospace and defense industry is another major economic stimulant for Oklahoma. Companies such as Boeing, Northrop, Grumman. These are all industries that are working very strongly here in our state, that is adding to our economy. In addition to that, we have a very strong agriculture economy, right? We are the cornerstone of cattle and ranching and wheat farming. Soybean production happens here. We're also big on manufacturing, and we have a lot of telecommunications. So Oklahoma overall is experiencing this mega growth that is causing for a lot of industries to see the attractiveness of Oklahoma, and people are relocating here that work in a lot of these industries. So let's talk about the median income. So what does it look like for the average Oklahoman and when it comes to income? Well, surprisingly, our median income is around, according to the world of Googles, and all of the references will be at the end of in the description. So make sure, if you want to get more information about these stats, they will be in the notes on the description for this video. So getting back to the median income, we're sitting at around $63,603. And our median home price, now there's a lot of data out there. So my data is, we look at specifically when we're talking about the median home price, I'm pulling it directly from our local MLS. Realtor.com, Zillow, there's other sites that may have pulled information. So I'm specifically looking at data of our Oklahoma metro area ending in 2025. So anytime we talk about data, it's always going to be lagged about 30 days, because those numbers of homes selling, deals that have need to close and process, that information is typically on average about 30 days behind. So we're looking at this data of our median sales price is around $63,603. So if you're an Oklahoman that live here, that's on average what you make in this state. And as far as what it takes to buy a home, people are always curious. Okay, they ask me, I make this income, how much is the median home price? Well, our median home price is, again, looking at our data for 2020, ending in 2025, is around $275,000. It's actually up 1.9%. So when we start to think about affordability, many will say Oklahoma is considered one of the most affordable places to live in. On average, it takes about 4.1 years for a person to afford the median or average home price in our state. So again, if you're making around $63,603, you can afford a home that's going to be priced between $225,000 and $275,000. So a lot of our Oklahomans are experiencing that. 20% of residents spend 20% of their income on housing here. So if you're comparing that to some of the national averages, it's recommended for your housing costs to cost no more than 25%. So most of our residents here are able to experience affordability compared to some of the other bigger cities. Mortgage rates are between 6.1 to 6.3%. So these are all stats that when you're looking at affordability, we're looking at the job growth that's here, the unemployment. These are all factors that greatly benefit many Oklahomans, and people are looking at long-term income values as well as their home values adding up. So when you're making decisions and we're looking at the housing and the economy, one of the things that's very important is to consider the long-term effects, right? Are you buying in a place where you're wanting to have more stability? Are you planning to make changes in the next coming years about your housing? These are all factors to consider when we're looking at homeownership in 2026. It's going to be different for everybody. So knowing what your numbers are is very important when you're making this decision. I never tell anyone that they must buy a home, right? Because I think that is not really representative of the truth of what it takes to own real estate. Now, me as a realtor, I absolutely believe in homeownership, and that people, if you're able to move forward, absolutely make that investment. But realistically, it all comes down to what it means for you and why you ultimately want to move forward on that. And if we look at the data, the state of Oklahoma has a very healthy and strong economy for home ownership, and that path it takes to be able to do that. And of course, there's plenty of options that are available if you don't have the money to put down, which we'll talk about those options in another video. But right now, I just kind of wanted to break down what it looks like for home ownership in 2026 as it relates to Oklahoma. My name is Adelia Sosanya. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Be sure to tune in to the next video. The video after that, we're going to be talking about 401ks, being able to purchase a home using your 401k. I know I help people do that, and the Trump administration is actually now trying to offer some things around that. So it's very insightful to have an understanding of what that will look like. We're also going to break down equity. What does it mean to have equity, as well as housing in the economy? So my goal is to make this information as impactful and useful as possible, and be sure to tune in next time. Thank you for watching. Be sure to click subscribe and tune in next time.